Hello and welcome back to the Clan Blue podcast, sponsored by NordVPN. All the information you need for Nord is in the description down below. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, joined by John Townley for this Q&A episode. John, how's things, mate?
Doing better than you, I think. Yeah, doing fine. Thank you, Dan. I'm not ill like you, so yeah, I'm doing well, thanks.
Yeah, I've come down with tonsillitis this week, which is not pretty. Plenty of drinks breaks and clearing my throat breaks. So I'm going to try and talk as little as possible and get straight into the questions. First question comes in from... this is a great start to the episode. Right? I'm so pleased that we're doing this. AVFC Faithful says, can John please explain what minutes per shot-ending ball carry value means, please? Context for this, for those that have no idea what that means.
What's happened?
Is John tweeted basically how well Philogene could do next season and that no championship player recorded a better minutes per shot ending ball carry value than Philogene last season. And I think, as the kids say, John, you got cooked on Twitter by people saying, oh, just saying that down the pub to my mates, that like basically taking the mick about how it's such a niche stat.
I thought it was a good stat. Is there anything wrong with this?
But what does that mean, though?
All right, okay, I'll explain it. Hold on, let me get the piece up. Did I actually get cooked? I wasn't.
Mate, there's so many quote tweets being like utter woke nonsense. Stats people must answer for their crimes, says Joik. What does that even mean? Ewan says, oh yeah, that well-known stat.
Right, so firstly, in the piece, if anyone clicked on the piece, I hope that they did. I kind of used per 90 because that's a better barometer of players who basically don't play the whole season. It gives a better reflection, basically, of where they are compared to their rivals, I suppose. I don't know, it's probably an easier one if you just read it. Maybe I shouldn't have just put it on a tweet. He shoots when he carries the ball more often than not. Yeah. Which is a good thing. Like, I don't know why I would get cooked so badly for that. Every 49 minutes of games that he played last season, he'll shoot after carrying the ball, which is a good stat, I thought. Yeah, Hutchinson is 54, Somerville nearly 60. So yeah, kind of shows you what he was doing last season, Philogene. And the piece I was actually writing about, I think the comment that I made in the thing was, it was like last season when we had Bailey, when he'd come on the pitch and make an impact. That's something I'd expect Philogene to be doing. But what I'm trying to explain there is that, yes, he can carry the ball, but he's also got end product as well. He's not just dribbling past players and doing different skills and stuff. He's actually trying to produce something, and he had good output last season as well. I can't remember how many goals he scored and assists. But he was up there. So yeah, per 90, he was one of the most kind of creative winger in the division. So yeah, suck on that. Maybe I'll bite back now after it's been a few days.
Yeah, go for it. Start replying back to people. Why not? A new John Townley emerges from the shadows. All right, let's move on to the next question. Simon says, do you think that we're done on incomings? Aside from a review on the fitness of Mings, so maybe needing a centre-back, I can't see much more being done. I have a sneaky feeling the emergence of Morgan Rogers playing anywhere in midfield or up top negates any need. My initial reaction to that is no, we will not be done on incomings. I still think there's quite a lot to do.
Go on, expand.
Depending on positions that go. I think, obviously, as we record this, Diaby's not officially gone yet, but that is about to happen. The interest from West Ham and Duran seems to have picked up over the last maybe 24 hours or so. So I think that will happen. Simon mentions the recovery of Tyrone Mings, and maybe that does mean we need to look at the centre-back department if there's interest / an actual concrete bid that we deem worthy for Diego Carlos and he leaves. Obviously, that requires work needing to be done. Same possibly for Matty Cash as well. So I'm not saying that Villa need to bring in 2 or 3 bodies just for the sake of it. But if we lose another, as I've just listed there, 4 positions maybe, obviously we're going to have to need to do some work to replace those. Diaby and Duran go, we have to bring in a forward. Carlos goes, we have to bring in a centre-half. So I still think, given that we've had a busy window already so far, there is still work to do.
Yeah, that work will be there to do if the dominoes fall right in terms of players leaving the squad. We've done different videos already on the Champions League squad, which is basically the biggest clue we have as to where Villa are with their squad depth, and they are full up now. So, yeah, when Diaby goes, then, well, I mean, obviously we're looking at another forward. I mean, I'm not certain, but I'm fairly confident that a forward will be coming in with Duran going as well. I kind of had a bit of a rant previously about if we sell Diaby, do we need to replace him with a £50 million player and then buy another striker? For me, you absolutely don't. You have to just buy a player who can do both roles, someone who can cover Watkins and also complement him at the same time. So that player is obviously, or a key target, shall I say, is Joao Felix. That would cover those two roles. And then the arrival of Onana plus Barkley, that's where we've kind of added an extra player in our squad. So we've sold Luiz, but we've brought in Barkley and Onana. That kind of one place there means that we can't add two forwards, if that makes sense, in our Champions League squad. If Carlos goes, you're bringing in the defender. We're going to be selling a left back, I'm fairly confident again, because you can't have Morano, Dean and Maatsen all in your squad when you've got Erling Jr., who can also potentially operate in that role. Yeah, there'll be exits, but players coming in, I can only really see a player like a Felix or potentially centre-back if Carlos leaves. I can't really foresee anything else happening unless there's a sale that I'm not, or that I don't expect right now.
Just not away from the questions on Felix being the one that is doing the rounds at the moment. I'm asking you to offer me any insight into whether you think this is happening or not. It just feels so unlikely to me, given the financial commitments, demands that we would have to put down for his wages being astronomical, whether that be a loan with an obligation to buy or an option to buy, but we have to cover his wages. Buying him outright just seems unattainable. For all the noise that is surrounding it, I just don't see a world in which we make this deal work for us.
The way you say it there, that we can make it work for us, I think Atletico Madrid need to make it work for them, though. Felix is now in a position where there is very little interest in him, at least from elite clubs and elite managers. Emery is basically the last one. This is the break that I think Felix probably needs, coming to Villa and playing in Emery. Atletico, will probably recognise that. I think probably as the longer the window goes on or whatever. I don't know. Obviously, nothing's imminent as we talk now. But I think a deal probably can be made because Felix, yes, he's been kind of unwilling previously to join, but he's left. He's not just left with Villa, but we are in the Champions League now. So that's a big tick that, he didn't come to us in January 23 because Chelsea were in the Champions League. Obviously, they were willing to pay a lot of money as well for that loan. But it's a deal that I can see happening. Even something like if it was a performance-related add-on, who's going to get, or who's most, is that likely to happen at Villa? It is, I don't know how to quite put it, but is Felix going to improve at Villa or get to the level that he once was at or realise the potential that he has? That is more likely to happen at Villa under Emery than it is anywhere else of a club that would want him. I don't know where else would want him. Who else would want him that could actually afford it anyway? We could afford it if it's right for us. But you're right, at the moment, Villa will be a part in the valuation for Felix. I don't know how much exactly Atletico would want, but I'd have thought 50, 60 million. I've seen some Spanish reports somewhere saying that Atletico still own 45 or so million euros. So they'll want to kind of cover that with a sale. Maybe Villa aren't committed to paying that plus the wages, which the wages is a big stumbling block as well. But I think an agreement probably can be found there. If we sell Duran and Diaby, that's what you're looking at there, like 90 million-ish pounds. I don't know how much Duran would go for eventually. A lot of that might be performance-related add-ons as well. But Villa will be in a position to do it, but it's the wages as well that that needs to come down. Over to a player wage ratio that we've got at the moment is really high. So I think it's definitely something that can happen, but it will take a lot of talks. I think a lot of negotiation, but I think it would be a good deal for all parties. Not a good deal, but a good transfer for all parties. Atletico will get him off the wage book, or if it's a permanent sale, they'll get a transfer fee for him. Villa will get a player that Emery absolutely loves, and a player that I do think will be really useful for us because he'll cover two positions, as I said. So I think it's something that Atletico were thinking, we want to sell to Villa because firstly, they do have money, but secondly, if it is related to add-ons or if it's just a loan, his value will probably go up because he'll probably have a good season with Villa because he's playing under Emery.
I'll just worry about the wages. I've seen various reports of him being on a lot of money and that breaking Villa's wage structure and then that creating all kind of headaches that, if he's earning that, these other players want to earn that amount, and all of a sudden you've got a squad of unrest who all want more money, and kind of everything, the house of cards starts to fall apart a little bit. So I don't know whether it's worth having that potential unrest for the sake of one signing, or maybe looking elsewhere for a different level of talent for a very different cost outlay.
Yeah, and what I would say is Villa won't be breaking any of that or risking, paying a huge wage for a player that I don't see. They're not going to kind of bend over backwards just to get Felix on board. There'll be other targets as well. Obviously, they're liking Nico Williams, but that's something that I cannot see happening. In fact, Felix is the one they want, but if it's not right, they won't do it. I think that's the key thing.
Okay, next question then. from Amit, who says, do you guys think that Archer will take up the 4th club-trained place and not be sold? And as a follow-up from Gary, how likely is it that Cameron and Duran are part of our squad come September 1st? Separate answers for both, please, obviously. What's your verdict on Archer? A couple of times I've said I think he might be surplus to requirements. I'm starting to backpedal on that a little bit. I think there is a possibility he does stick around, but I'm still not quite convinced. It obviously looks like Duran will go. If Duran and Archer go, and Diaby, all of a sudden that's creating more problems for us, isn't it? I'm
kind of to and fro because Archer, I mean, if he's named in the Champions League squad, then been great. But firstly, Villa don't have to name 2 more club trained players. Obviously, Philogene and Jacob Ramsey would be 2 of the 4. But like last season, they didn't name the kind of the full complement, even though they could have if they'd like. So yeah, I don't think Archer will be in the squad. I mean, if he is, then okay. But is that going to be right for him when he plays every other match off the bench potentially for 2 or 3 minutes? Like, I just don't think that's right for his development. So if Villa get a reasonable offer, I wouldn't be surprised if they sold, because I don't see what exactly it would be doing for Cameron. Like, will he want to be staying around and come off the bench every now and again? He'll experience Champions League football if he does, potentially. But yeah, his value would probably depreciate, I'd have thought, if he just comes off the bench every so often for Villa next season. Personally, I just can't see it. If we sold him last summer, I don't see why we wouldn't do it again. He's clearly a very good talent, and I'm not forgetting what he did at Preston, what he did at Middlesbrough, of course. But yeah, is he at the level that Villa need to be fighting for 4th again? I'm not kind of convinced on that. Yes, he could be a valuable part of the squad because everyone needs to play their part. But yeah, as I said, the squad is very much full at the moment, and if we have a fully fit team, would Archer even get on the bench for the 9 subs in the Premier League? Again, I'm not sure. It's very unlikely that Villa will have a fully fit team for any game next season, because that's just the way things are at the moment. But yeah, personally, I can't see it. I think he would be sold if Villa can get the right fee for him, and I'm sure there's no shortage of interest anyway. And the second part of the question was Duran. Duran, I'm confident that he won't be part of the team next season. West Ham are hopeful of finding an agreement with Villa. I think it's difficult because Villa obviously rate him very highly, and therefore his value is going to be high as 40 million. But then clubs will be reluctant to buy him because there's a reason why Villa are selling him. Also, he is raw still. He is inexperienced. So to pay £40 million for Duran, you know, £40 million is a lot of money for Premier League clubs, even though it's the richest league in the world. We've all just seen what happened with PSR in the last month. So yeah, spending £40 million on a 20-year-old is still going to be a risk for anyone. So again, performance-related add-ons will probably become a big part of a deal, which means negotiations drag on, etc., because it's quite detailed, all that stuff, isn't it? So yeah, I'd expect Archer both to go. If Archer stays around, fantastic. But again, is that what the player wants? So I don't think that would be right for his development. Yeah, I've said on a previous episode about Archer, if he was surplus to requirements last year and we were happy to sell him, I don't see what's changed this year, to be honest. I suppose that because he didn't feature last year and we didn't have him to fall back on if we needed him, if he was to go this year, we don't need to replace him. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I mean, weirdly, he might even have a better chance of playing next season than last season because he doesn't have Duran in the way. And Villa don't, if they sell Duran and they only bring someone like Felix, then they don't have a such like a number 9. Felix isn't really that player, is he? He could definitely do it for a few games, but Watkins' injury record would suggest that he will be fit for almost every game next season, touchwood. So yeah, again, if Villa were to keep him, Archer might get a few chances here and there, but I think he just needs to be in a team that are creating chances that he's going to be playing for every week. I don't know who exactly that would be, because I haven't thought about it myself, but Sheffield United just didn't seem like the right move anyway. I mean, yes, it gave him an opportunity, but I think a lot of people thought, well, if he goes there for decent money, okay, but then he can fire them back up for the Premier League until news came out about the clause that he would basically be coming back to Villa if they got relegated. So that was really difficult. And I think Archer going there would surely have thought, well, there's every chance I'm going back to Villa anyway. So we can't really settle there. He's not thinking about being there long term. It's basically a glorified loan. So I would go as far as saying he hasn't actually left Villa permanently yet, basically. Why do you think that clause was inserted? Was that because Villa thought, well, if they go down, we'll have him back because we want him, we do want to keep him? Was it just a PSR thing? Yeah. Or did they think, well, we'll take him back and we'll try again, we'll try and sell him on to somebody else? I'd put it down to PSR. Villa had to balance their books last summer as well, but instead of selling big player. They chose to raise money from Aaron Ramsey, Cameron Archer, and Jaden Philogene. Obviously, because it was a decent chunk, Sheffield United probably thought, okay, well, we don't want to part with that if, you know, I don't know whether they could afford it kind of long term, but instead they're only paying a certain amount, aren't they? So it worked out for them in terms of the money. Obviously, they went down anyway. And for Villa, they got that money, or at least part of it. So, yeah, I don't think there's an issue that, I don't think it's a situation there where they thought, okay, we want him back. I mean, yeah, if he scored 10 goals for Sheffield United in that team anyway, would keep him in the squad because he's definitely got something about him even in the Premier League, but we still haven't seen that yet. So, yeah, for me, another Premier League move. I don't know. I keep saying Leicester. Leicester kind of seems like a perfect club for him because he can play most games. We'll see what happens with Cameron, but I can't see how if he does stay in the team, how he'd make an impact anyway. Obviously, I'd love him to. Didn't want to see him leave last season, but it was a case of it had to happen. But I just feel like there's not room for him at the moment in the team.
Right. Next question then. Dr. Mills says, winning a trophy should be priority this season. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree.
Interesting.
We're gonna have the experience of playing in the Champions League next season. 8 matches, 4 home, 4 away, and that's the reward for last season basically. But it was agonising the way that we fell out to Olympiacos because of fatigue, injuries. I'm certain we would have gone on to win it if we had a full complement of players and if we weren't going for the top 4 as well, because we put everything into going into the top 4. Emery even said it after the match against Olympiacos, basically admitted it. So yeah, we definitely went for the Champions League last season. Next season, I'd like to think we're going to finish in the top 7, which will again guarantee European football, which is what we want every year. But if we get European football every year and every year and every year without winning anything, yes, that's successful in terms of the league, definitely. But you do want to win something. You want to mark the Unai Emery era for however long it's going to be, with as many trophies as you can get, basically. Carabao Cup, please, just anything. Like, we can't be sort of snobby about it. We need something in the cabinet now. It's been far too long, and we are definitely ready to do that as well. I don't know what exactly Emery's focus will be, because it definitely wasn't winning either the Carabao or FA Cup last season, but I guess we were in the hat for winning the European trophy that we were going after. Next season, it's obviously going to be a massive task to win the Champions League. So you're looking at domestic trophies, aren't you? But yeah, for me, definitely a priority. I'd love us to see. I'd love us to win a trophy next season, obviously. And again, we've done the Champions League. We'll want it and want it and want it again. Of course we will. But the trophy thing's eluded us for so long. I would definitely say that's a priority. We have a few priorities. I mean, that doesn't really make sense, but we have like 3 or 4 things we want to do next season. But I would put winning a trophy on top of all of it.
Would you take a trophy over Champions League qualification? In the tweet underneath the initial question, John did a poll: trophy or UCL qualification this season. The poll got just over 100 votes of people that were in this thread. 58% picked a trophy, 41% picked UCL qualification. I'd pick top 4 again.
Would you? I don't know. I'm pretty 50-50 that I would probably say trophy, to be fair.
When you said before about like it's all well and good being in the top 7 year after year after year after year without winning anything, well, let's do that first bit first. Year after year after year. We've been in Europe for now 2 seasons in a row. I would like that to be I'd like to be in the Champions League for the next 2, 3, 4 seasons before thinking.
I think we could do both. I don't see how going after a cup, because of the depth that we have in the team now, and like strength in depth as well, not just kind of academy players. I think that we can have a cup run without it being at the detriment of playing, I don't know, can't think of any Premier League teams now. Wow. Playing Wolves at the weekend.
I think it's more likely this year than it was last year to be able to juggle various competitions.
Yeah, I agree.
But if you said to me, oh, you can go and win the Carabao Cup in February, or you can qualify for the Champions League again for the season after, without hesitation, pick the Champions League.
I think it's because we're going to get the experience next year, and it's going to be great. Of course it will. Absolutely buzzing for it. But I did mention as well last year I'm happy that we've got the Champions League. Maybe, this might sound crazy, but maybe we'll, go into the Europa League the year after, which would be, fantastic again, and would have a chance of winning that. And it would be more of okay, so we've been to the Bernabeu, or we've been to the Allianz or whatever, and we've had that experience, and this is what happened, whether it went good or bad. Next year, I feel like, we'll be craving that again, but I'll absolutely settle for going somewhere else and winning there. Do you know what I mean? Like, what James said about the Conference League, about how we'll miss going to different teams and being the kind of favourites for things, it kind of boosted our ego a little bit, I think. But I really like that because it was like a different kind of it was a completely different experience for the club and for the fans, etc. Yeah, absolutely. I'd take Champions League every season, of course I would. But would I want Champions League every year and not win anything? No, I want to win something as well. So I would take a trophy next year over Champions League again, but I wouldn't take a trophy if we finished ninth. I'm answering all these questions with the belief that we'll finish top 7 all the time, which is maybe a bit giddy. I don't know. We are the 4th best team in England since Unai Emery took over, so we've got the right to be giddy. But we can't forget that there's a lot of competition in the Premier League these days. Like the top 10 teams, all of them want European football. So we have to be really consistent. But yeah, a trophy is something that we just need to get, however which way. It's just we need to go over the line with that.
Of course, I want to win a trophy as well. Like, it'd be such a great feeling to see Villa win something. But for the long-term, sustainable Villa doing good things, I think they have to be absolutely in Europe, but in the Champions League puts up such a different level that, talking earlier about signing Joao Felix, that's not going to happen if we're in the Europa League, probably, never mind the Champions League. Signing Anana, Matson, like, are they going to come to us if we drop down to 8th, but we've won a Carabao Cup? Like, I feel like we need to progressively keep going the way we are, and to do that, being in the Champions League is going to help. I think, as you say, if we've been in it for 5 years in a row, sounds mad, but we'll probably be a little bit bored of it. Like, the novelty will have worn off a touch, I suppose. So by that point, if you've still not won a trophy and the drought goes on to be 35, 40 years, then yeah, obviously you've got to be winning stuff. Yeah. But for now, that novelty is still absolutely there, and being in the top 4 again would just show a nice kind of validation, maybe, as well, that this isn't a flash in the pan. This isn't a one-season thing for Emery like it was for Eddie Howe and Newcastle. We're now, not as far as to say as established, because it'll only be 2 seasons in a row, but that's some achievement to do it back to back.
Winning a trophy would help winning the next one, though, because you get over it, and winning is a habit. So I'm kind of in a position now where I want to win something, because I think that would only do us well moving forward. And it wouldn't, I definitely buy the argument of Champions League upon Champions League brings you more revenue, brings you better players, equals more competitive for longer. That's absolutely true. But I also think the trophy element does help as well. You attack things with less pressure, or I don't know quite to say. Like, for example, when Newcastle got in the FA Cup final, or was it Carabao Cup final, the other year, and they played against that Man United side, they weren't particularly great, and Newcastle were probably a better team than them. But they lost 2-0. And there was like a massive thing about Newcastle. Like, one of the things, 68 years, they had like a big PowerPoint in the changing room or whatever, and they kind of bottled it on the big stage. That's not something that I want to be seeing Villa do. And I don't think that would happen if we got over the line and won something. I feel like we could just go again and again and again, because Emery wins things. Like, his whole career he's won everything, or he's won a lot of things, sorry. So yeah, I think getting over it would be a massive plus, obviously, for lots of different reasons. But yeah, European football is probably the priority in general. If you're kind of going more broader, European football is always the priority at the start of every season. Emery always says that. But then a trophy is probably second to that. But in my head, I'm thinking, well, Villa probably will be in European football anyway. Yeah, that's why a trophy is technically priority.
Okay. Next question. Caroline, do you think there's any truth in the Jacob Ramsey to Spurs rumour? I would not want to see him go, especially not to Spurs. Yeah, I agree with that. I saw somebody else in the YouTube comments saying about the Diaby thing and how we're almost not really that bothered about him going to Saudi. Whereas if the money's good and everything, great, that kind of softens the blow, if you like. But think how you would feel if Jacob Ramsey went to Spurs for 60 million. That would feel horrible. This 20 million Lo Celso in return, kind of doing a lot on social media over the last couple of days. I want to say I would be surprised. I don't know anything, but I just can't see it for some reason.
Spurs definitely want him, and they're obviously using Lo Celso as a carrot because Emery likes Lo Celso. Lo Celso is a very good player.
Yeah.
He signed him twice at Villarreal and spoke very highly of him. Lo Celso spoke highly of Emery. Like, they get on very well. So Spurs probably using that as as an incentive. Firstly, I don't see how Lo Celso fits in the team, because we have a lot of midfielders. We have a lot of attacking midfielders who play left, right, behind Watkins. It would be a dreadful deal, whatever the money, because you don't want to sell Ramsey. If we had to sell Ramsey at the start of the summer, that would have been because Luiz stayed, basically. He was the sale that we made, not Ramsey. This is why I keep saying I don't want to see Villa spending money all the time on players just because they leave. For example, if we were to sell Diaby, if we sign Felix for, it's going to be a big fee if we were to sign him permanently. But then you'd look at it and think, okay, well, Duran money, can that help us next summer? You don't want to kind of sell players and then buy them for the same price and then amortise or whatever. That isn't the point. You need to relieve some of your wages. You need to make money when you can and not just spend it straight after if you don't have to. So if selling Diaby and Duran means that Ramsey doesn't have to go next summer, then fantastic. That's the news that we all want. So, yeah, can I see Ramsey leaving for Tottenham? At the moment, I think it's unlikely. Tottenham would have to put down a huge amount of money for Villa to consider it. And will Tottenham do that anyway? I don't think so. I mean, whenever they do, they usually do it badly, like Ndombele and other players to back up Harry Kane, etc. Johan Langer's obviously leading Tottenham's transfer policy these days, and obviously he's a big fan of Jacob Ramsey. He knows Villa inside out as well. Villa wanted him to stay because they rated him highly. Can I see it going away? Probably not. I don't think Langer will be deterred by it, even though it's gone relatively quiet since last month when there was first kind of talks about it. And as well, Ramsey doesn't want to go. He wants to stay. Boyhood club, Champions League football. Last season was a bad season for him because of injuries. I'm sure he knows that he can go on more levels under Emery. Like, look what Rodgers has just done. It's perfect manager for him to work under. So I don't see a situation where he goes unless, as I keep saying, Spurs put down a huge amount of money, but I just can't foresee that happening. I
saw a couple of tweets saying, well, Ramsey wasn't pictured as one of the players in the promo. Does that mean that he's on the way out? No. First of all, it doesn't mean that. For obviously, these things are often done a long time ago, and for various reasons, a player may not be available for a shoot. Could be a starting point. Jacob Ramsey was in the Adidas video, I think. Yeah, the JD thing. That's right. Yeah, he was in that. So like, he has been used in some kind of club promo material, if you like. Morgan Rogers didn't have his blonde painted hair in the kit release picture, so it was done before that happened. Whenever that happened is when the kit launch was done. You know what I mean? So could be a multitude of reasons why Jacob Ramsey wasn't in that.
Robbie was in the JD video, to be fair as well.
That's true, he was. Yeah, but yeah, I think that proves the point not to read too much into kit promo. Jack Grealish obviously famously in the kit promotion of the summer that he left, so I won't worry about it. Just on that Tottenham deal, 19-20 million pounds and Lo Celso, according to Transfer Market, John, Lo Celso's value is only 16 million euros. Surely that's massively undervaluing Jacob Ramsey's value.
What's Ramsey's value?
35 million euros.
Yeah, okay. So if Tottenham bid, is that euros? So if Tottenham bid around 30 million, they get Ramsey.
Yeah.
Right. Why you shouldn't look at transfer values.
What do you think it would take? So he doesn't want to go. Villa don't want to sell. But if Tottenham come back and say, right, Lo Celso is part of the deal, Emery loves him, that's fine. How much actual cash have they got to put up alongside that?
Whatever I say, someone will take it as like okay then. But I don't want to say a number because I'm scared that would happen. I don't want to say. It would be the second most expensive transfer or departure in Villa's history, put it that way. At the moment, it's going to be Diaby for 50.5.
Okay, yeah.
That's a really safe kind of estimation. But yeah, I just can't see it at the moment because I just don't think Tottenham are going to pay that sort of money, and Villa don't want to sell to a rival. We were told from within the club in January when news kind of first came out about Ramsey could go if Villa have to raise money. Villa said, no, we don't want to sell. It's not a situation where we're actively looking for suitors or anything because of, as I said, Louise has gone. That helped, or that cured PSR for last summer. Again, next summer, I don't know exactly what position Villa will be in because the business this summer isn't complete. But I'd like to think that they're going to be kind of as frugal as they possibly can be up until the end of the window. So the chances that we'd have to sell another big player would be low, basically.
Next question from Daniel, who says, from hardly knowing a thing to knowing an incoming transfer days, sometimes weeks in advance of them coming in, what has changed and why? Not massive amounts of detail to that question, so I've added a bit of context in my head. Villa were seen to be kind of making transfers on the quiet, if you like, out of the blue, which, to be fair, Onana was pretty much that, wasn't it? He was kind of not really talked about. Then it was like, oh, it's going to be done, it's going to be agreed, and it's taken a bit of time to actually be confirmed because he was on holiday. Others you kind of hear about as being, oh, it's going to happen, they're in talks and all that kind of stuff. Whereas in years gone by, and I'm rubbish at thinking of examples on the spot, we've signed players out of the blue. Danny Ings, you just go, oh, what the hell? Where did that come from? So Dan was asking, what's changed there? My only answer would be that every transfer is different. Every situation is different. Agents are different. Certain ones will be leaking stories and whatnot. Some will be more secretive. I don't think it's a Villa thing, is it?
No, you're right, Dan. Every transfer is different. It involves different people, a lot of people, and yeah, not one is the same. It's such a big transfer like Felix, for example. That's not something that Villa will announce in an hour, and then it's kind of taking everyone by surprise. Just different people running the club as well. Purslow was very it's on the whole. I don't know why. If I'm being totally honest, I don't exactly know what it achieves. People within football will know better than others, because they're in the game. So if it's in the newspaper, I don't think it's kind of informing them of something, and they're not just going to make a bid or a counter bid or whatever as a reaction to it. So yeah, I don't know really what it achieves or what it did achieve when Purslow kind of kept everything hidden in that sense. Like, it was obviously exciting when something would break, as in he signed. Like the Danny Ings stuff was completely out of the blue. Maybe that sort of stuff helps fans think that it's a good signing because it wasn't, and it's not something we should have done. So maybe if it was linked, maybe if he was linked 2 weeks in advance, people would start to realise actually we probably shouldn't buy this guy because he doesn't fit in the system. We have Watkins, etc., etc.
Did we think that at the time though?
No, because I think it was just we were all caught up in such an excitement of, oh my God, this guy scored so many goals. Only Vardy and Kane have scored more than him, which is what I was doing. But yeah, different transfers involve different people, involve different agents. It's the different reasons why things would be in the media or why they're not.
A couple of housekeeping questions that I'll be able to rattle through if my voice holds out. Another one from Daniel, a different Daniel, says, when you do your match predictions next season, can you write them on a piece of paper and show them to the camera at the same time? It'll be a bit more exciting. It means you have to stick with your prediction. Is he insinuating that we kind of cheat the predictions a little bit?
I think we change, because either one of us goes first, don't we? So yeah, I think that's a good idea. I won, didn't I, last season?
Did you win?
I think I did, but we didn't ever mention it because...
No, I suppose we probably wouldn't have mentioned it, would we? Because
it was after pre-Palace, and then after Palace, I went away. I got out of it.
I thought you beat me by 1 point, but you beat me by 2. I got 26 points, you got 28. So you did win the Predictions League last year.
You win.
But I suppose back to Daniel's point, often you went first, and if you said 2-0 and I went, I was going to say 2-0 as well, I'll pick something different. And if 2-0 came off, you would have got a score right. Whereas if we'd have both held up a piece of paper saying 2-0, you wouldn't have had that edge over me.
I'm hearing an excuse. I think I am.
I'm just hearing facts, mate. So yeah, we'll take that. We'll take that feedback on board from next season from West Ham. We'll share our predictions on screen first, so neither of us can change our minds. That makes it fair. Chris asked as well, can you bring back the Football Manager series for the Champions League season? Pretty please. I would say it's probably unlikely. When we first did that, my job title was, this is so boring, my job title was slightly different, my responsibilities were different, that I'm more busy now than I was then.
Previously.
Part of my job before was I could get away with playing a game for a couple of hours, so it isn't now. So I'd probably have to do it in my own time, which means I'm working out of hours. I don't have the time for that. Dan Bardell is a very busy man. The only way I could see me ever bringing this back is if I did it on my own, because then I am flexible to film it. But then, is it going to be any good with it on my own? Like, the best thing about that was me and Dan bantering each other for crap tactics. Clarence Blur.
Clarence Blur. Oh, that's good.
A Frenchman. Yeah, so I doubt it. I'd be very surprised. Who knows? Final part of the show, John. We haven't got a silly question this week, which I'm a little bit disappointed about. What we have got, though, I don't know whether you remember this, is the bad take of the week.
Oh, yeah.
What we initially said last week, John, I'm going to have to tweak it, and I'll show you why in a minute. This was like, you spoke before about doing a video on hate comments and whether that was something we could do. And I said, well, no, we don't really get enough of that to warrant doing a video, but maybe we can have a section in the podcast where we do that. But opening up people to be nasty is not really a great look. So I think from now on, we'll just change it to be comment of the week. We will highlight somebody's comment each week, good or bad, a footballing point, something about the podcast. Just giving somebody the opportunity to be selected for having a good comment. I think is a better way of doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Because the first one was, and this is not from an account, before you say, of me or Kendrick. This comes from Big Head One, who says, bad take of the week. Matt is more optimistic than John is these days. Would you like to reply to Mr. Big Head One?
Oh, it depends what the context is from the comment that Big Head Mr. Big Head One is talking about. I don't know. Am I not optimistic? I think I'm very balanced. I think that's probably what I'd say. I don't know. Is Matt not optimistic as well? I've never really got
Well,
that.
he's kind of like always been known for being like the old man, the cynical kind of, oh, it's all going to fall apart at some point. But I think he's got less like that lately. That's given a guy called Mr. Big Head to come on and basically just go, John's negative. And we opened that. That was on us. We said, say what you want.
Wait, you said I was negative?
Well, that's what he's implying, yeah?
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm not negative. I might be negative, actually, in some...
What I will do, though, is there's a footballing one here that we're going to end on from Tom. He says, I have something which could be a bad take, but I'm certain of. Kamara 100% would have gone instead of Luiz if he was fit. And even if he is fit right now, he wouldn't start. People forget how poorly he started last season and got hooked by Emery. He makes too many errors and has been responsible for more errors leading to goals than anyone else under Emery. I reckon he'll be gone soon anyway, even though I do think he can become great.
So if I'm negative, well, no, I agree with the first. I don't know if I agree, but the first part I understand.
He's a saleable asset.
He might have been over Luiz, potentially. It depends what Villa thought they could have replaced. Kamara's only been at the club for 2 years. I think he's one of the best holding midfielders in the Premier League for what he can do. Yes, he has a mistake in him because I think he's too casual sometimes, but he's only... Let me just double check his age quickly.
I'm going to guess 24.
Yeah, he is 24. So 25 in November.
Get in.
Loads of room for growth still. Like I can't agree with everything that was it Tom said there. I think it's I'm all for opinions and stuff, absolutely. But yes, he got hooked a couple of times by Emery, but there's reasons for that. Whether it would be chasing games or, you know,
it's fine to not be having a good game to be substituted. Like that is going to happen occasionally as well.
He's absolutely instrumental. Like the amount of times we conceded more than 2 goals without him when he was injured last season was really bad. And you could argue, because we didn't have anyone else in the team that was even like him. I understand that, but he's still one of the better players in his position in the Premier League. So, no issue with Kamara for me. When we get him back, we'll be a better team. Was Thomas a bad take, did you think?
Yeah, I think that's an awful take.
Okay. Sorry, Tom.
I think the idea of him being sold, fine, he was a free transfer. I think he's a very good footballer. Therefore, it makes sense to sell him because we'll make a profit. And surely Tom is implying that he would go for a lot of money because he would be the guy that we could kind of sacrifice to PSR, if you like. And for him to be worth a lot of money to be sold, he can't then be the following paragraph that he's a poor player and he gives the ball away and he's...
We've, as I said before, we planned for Luiz's exit a long time ago. Therefore, we brought in Tielemans, brought in Barkley for 5 mil plus other players as well. But now we've brought in Barrenetxea and Onana, 2 players who can play that role, not nowhere near to the level as I think Kamara can at the moment. But there's definitely a situation there where Villa have looked at it and thought, well, we now have 2 other players who can play holding. Kamara's coming back from injury. I don't know when Kamara's contract runs out, but you're looking across the squad and you're thinking, well, there's options there if we had to make a sale. You can see where it would be. And Villa have already stocked up on players. Barrenetxea joined for like 8 million. That's kind of the same thing as what we've just seen with Barkley and Tielemans, of a really low cost transfer. If he becomes something very good in 2 years or whatever, there is or at least one of maybe 2 replacements for a player. I'm not saying Kamara is going to be going at any point. That's what I'm saying. But you need to have those kind of safety nets basically in your team. For example, if Ramsey goes at some point, you have Rodgers. If Kamara goes, you have Barrenetxea, maybe Onana plays that role. I'm not too sure. When we had Barkley lined up, we have Tielemans. That's what I'm trying to kind of get at. And then your untouchable players, at least at the moment, are Martinez and Watkins.
No, makes sense, John. And we'll call it a day there for this Q&A episode. As we said, we will be introducing comment of the week from here on forward, not bad take of the week. So we'll pick out the best comment on YouTube from this episode and we'll share it on next week's main Monday show, although this one is coming out on a Wednesday because I was in a much worse state at the start of the week, let me tell you. John, thank you for joining me. As always, thank you for watching or listening to this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.